that, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So good evening, everyone. My name is Ciara D'Amico from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I'm your North End, West End, and Wharf District Liaison. I want to thank everyone for coming here this evening and taking the time out to join. I do want to highly and strongly emphasize that I am here tonight to facilitate this required cannabis outreach. This is an application for 464 Hanover Street, Unit A, which is operated by Bay State Herbal Solutions. This meeting is scheduled until 8 p.m. Any comments that there were not time for can be emailed directly to me afterwards and the Cannabis Board. I will put my contact information in the chat. Also, before we get started, I would like to go over my expectations for tonight's meeting. I understand this can be a sensitive topic for many people. I do want to make it clear that no decisions are being made tonight and that it is not acceptable to be disrespectful to anyone at any time during this meeting. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. There is no right or wrong opinion. We are here tonight as a community and a neighborhood to collect as many comments, questions, or concerns anyone may have about this proposal. I ask that all questions are directed towards the applicant and myself only. The applicant will answer all questions related to the proposal, and I can answer any questions regarding the city's process. If I or the applicant is unable to answer any of your questions tonight, please feel free to reach out to us and we will get those information and that answer for you as soon as possible. This meeting is an open comment period, meaning that if you did not get called on tonight by the time it hits 8 p.m., you have time to reach out to me and the Cannabis Board with my information that's had been on the flyer that you got to attend this meeting, and those will be answers throughout the email. There will be no questions during the presentation. Once again, this is not a debate about the legalization of marijuana. That debate occurred at the ballot box, and we are here today because of this proposal and this proposal only. The applicant will go through the presentation in a timely manner, and the remainder of time will be for question and answers. Each person has a maximum of 2 questions to speak. I will be timing each person. Once the 2 minutes have passed, I will have to move on to the next question. I want to say again, thank you for taking the time to participate in this, and I will now hand it over to the applicant. Also on the screen right now is some points to help with the Zoom, how to mute, unmute yourself, the chat box, to hear reactions, to raise your hand below. So if you have any questions, feel free to directly chat me. And my email is also right here, ciara.d'amico@boston.gov. And I will go ahead and let the applicant share their screen.
Hi, and Ciara, my name is Jonathan. I'll actually be making the presentation from my screen. I don't think that you need to share or provide me sharing access. You should be able to see the content directly from my video.
Okay, yeah, I gave you access to share your screen as well too, if that's easier.
Okay, excellent. So thank you, Ciara. Let me introduce myself. My name is Jonathan Herman. I am also a facilitator and a presenter on behalf of Bay State. What I'm going to do is lead us through a brief presentation, which will be followed by Q&A, which will be the opportunity that each of you have to ask whatever questions that you have. My job is simply to run us through some of the material so that you are well informed of what Bay State intends to do. And then again, we'll turn it over to the Q&A section that follows that. Just a little bit of information about me. I'm a graduate of Northeastern Law School, lived in the South End for many years. I'm actually outside of the state right now in a place that's very rainy, so I hope that my power doesn't get cut while we're talking, but I understand the Boston community very well and have grown up there. So let me go ahead and move forward. We'll take a quick look at what the agenda is for today's call. We're going to be going through the strength of the team, the plan for operations and security, also the diversity and inclusion plan, the positive impact that Bay State intends to have on the community, and then delivery operations. Looking at the team, we have Liam Bennett as CEO, John Terry as the CSO, Shane Darcy, Tiffany Isom. There's a range of experts, quality folks. Some of them you'll get to know on this call. They'll be speaking about their relative areas of expertise. David Olivelli, David Mellon, Malik Hyatt, Shane Darcy, Johanna. I'm sorry, did someone? Maybe I was corrected on a pronunciation. I apologize if I mispronounced anything. Johanny Viciana and Edwin Piverger. The principal owner and operators are Liam Bennett. As a knowledgeable cannabis executive, Liam also understands the perspective of patients. Having been prescribed medical cannabis to treat an illness in his teens, as a qualified social equity licensee, Liam's relationships with local, state, and federal law enforcement helps drive the success of Bay State Herbal Solutions. The other principal owner-operator is Malik Hyatt. Malik is an astute business owner with over 20 years of international experience in operational management, competitive analysis, and financial management in retail and sales. Born in Pakistan, after gaining US citizenship, he launched Blue Moon International in Boston and expanded his business to more than 30 locations throughout New England. Together, Liam and Malik are proposing a highly secured and responsibly led marijuana retail and delivery establishment at 464 Hanover Street. Bay State is backed by expert advisors and staff with extensive training in security within a highly regulated industry. Adhering to all legal and statutory requirements, Liam and Malik will use their skills and experience to manage a safe and successful establishment with full considerations of the needs of the surrounding community. Let's take a look at operations and security. It's a little bit of info, a few graphics here on what the interior of the establishment will look like, as well as the exterior at the intersection. Shane will talk a little bit more about this floor plan as we go into the Q&A section. And you should also know that Fuss & O'Neill are conducting an engineer certified traffic study. I believe that's already been completed, as well as a distance certification letter. And then we also have licensed and experienced general contractors with extensive experience in the cannabis construction space, which does require its own expertise, specifically working under the CCC and municipality regulations. Let's take a closer look here. Maintaining a safe working environment while contributing responsibly to the community are top priorities for Bay State. And this will be accomplished through an all-encompassing operational and security plans, followed by all employees in compliance with local ordinances, including the prevention of product to minors. No external marketing depicting cannabis products will be viewable from the street. The store will close each day during the times that children come to and from the nearby school. Secured cash and products will be fully accounted for, with limited cash to be held at the store and the use of inventory control software platforms. Dedicated security agents on the premises and 100% ID checks at the point of entry, preventing anyone from the age of 21 from entering or purchasing. Live closed circuit television security capabilities with complete coverage of the interior and the exterior, which is directly accessible by the CCC, Boston Police Department, and BCB. randomized product delivery schedule while avoiding peak traffic times, using a secured point of entry and a CCC-approved cannabis transportation company. Strict no loitering policies inside or around the store with the right to refuse service or sales. Educational information about the products sold, their effects, benefits, and risks. No on-site consumption of any products, which is very important. Also, ongoing auditing to ensure policies and procedures are fully adhered to. Let's take a look at diversity and inclusion. Bay State Solutions is an improved social equity applicant with plans to manage diversity, equity, and inclusion as follows. The goal is to provide employment, retention, and promotion paths to individuals from diverse backgrounds that represent our community by promoting and contracting qualified people from diverse backgrounds, using social media to outreach to individuals who may provide different outlooks, perspectives, and capabilities, leading to a more robust company culture, working with a wide range of community groups and employment agencies to promote opportunities, pursuing a workforce that is at least 50% women, 30% people of color, 10% military veterans, 5% LGBTQ+, and 10% people with disabilities. Providing a living wage and competitive benefits, prioritizing Boston residents. Providing clear and inclusive paths to promotion and career development, and also welcoming inclusive employee feedback, encouraging different perspectives. Now, how will this be measured? Bay State will gather employee demographic data, monitor diversity goals, and meet monthly to report and make improvements as needed. A dedicated labor management team will engage organizations monthly to recruit and train, track data, and strategize towards reaching the success rates. And annual reviews of each program will be conducted, developing new programs and eliminating others to attract diverse talent. Our fourth section is the positive impact towards the community. In accordance with the Cannabis Control Commission, Bay State has the unique opportunity to positively impact communities and individuals disproportionately affected by the war on drugs and previous marijuana laws through cannabis mentorship programs for social equity applicants, aggressive social media recruitment, billboard and local advertising within disproportionately impacted communities, working with community groups and agencies for recruiting and funding, and promoting vendors and suppliers from diverse and disenfranchised backgrounds. Bay State mentorship programs will serve up to 5 participants for approximately 4 weeks at a time, tailored to include, but not limited to, cannabis business and company structure, understanding policy, procedure, and standard operating procedures, compliance and regulation, job function and area-specific introductions, skill development, and resume building. The success of these mentorship cycles will be determined by completion rates, positive placement within and outside of the company structure, and participant feedback for leadership to make ongoing improvements. Additionally, positive community impact will extend to a new refurbishment and improved corner in a high visibility area, reduced traffic compared to the previous tenant, according to a professional traffic study, the likely appreciation of property values nearby based on state data, employment opportunities for local residents, such as construction jobs, suppliers, vendor opportunities, and more, community feedback and charitable donations, and improved security measures that will benefit all residents around the location. Our last section here is regarding delivery operations. Bay State is also licensed to operate delivery services from its retail location, with each vehicle being insured and inspected by the CCC, allowing Bay State to purchase products from cultivators and product manufacturers, repackage those products for sale to online consumers via home delivery, which decreases customer traffic to the physical store. Some key notes here. All products will be secured and vaulted before delivery. Customers will use an online store for age verification and product purchasing. Additional ID checks will be made at the point of contact by the delivery agents. Robust, all-encompassing security and emergency procedures to ensure professional and safe deliveries, and hybrid vehicles that include hardwired GPS monitoring, in-vehicle cameras, no external markings, odor mitigation, secured storage compartments, and other safety features. Here's a look at some of the types of vehicles that are already being used in communities across Massachusetts that include each one of these safety features to ensure full regulatory compliance. At this point, we're happy to provide detail on any other aspects of the Bay State Herbal Solutions, and that will happen directly with the managers of the business itself. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We will go ahead with questions or comments or concerns. If you want to raise your hand, I can go ahead and click. We can start with Luigi.
Good evening, everybody. For those who don't know me, my name is Luigi from Representative Aaron Michaelowicz's office. Unfortunately, the rep couldn't be here, but he is in opposition of this project, and us as an office are in opposition of this project. We have concerns with the close proximity of the school on Charter Street and the possibility of a community center on the waterfront. And there's traffic concerns that we're worried about, especially with buses lined up to pick up the kids. So we are in opposition to this project, and I'm here to state that. Thank you.
Thank you, Luigi. I also do just want to state that I was unaware that there might be a capacity of Zoom that was not on my end or in my settings. But if anyone you know of is having trouble getting onto the Zoom call, please have them just request this recording and to email me, the applicant, and the cannabis board. Personally, it's still allowing me to accept people, but I've just received some calls that some people were having trouble coming in. So please, if anyone is calling anyone here, just address that to them. And then we will go ahead with Adam. I've asked you to
Hi,
unmute.
Ciara, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm on from 420 Commercial Street, directly across the street. I'm representing a family as a third generation business owner there at that location. As far as the quote unquote traffic study, frankly, I find it misleading, partially insulting. As far as the previous tenant at 7-Eleven, whatever that traffic study is failing to recognize is that Commercial Street on the eastbound lane was 2 lanes when 7-Eleven was open. It is now 1 lane. It's the only spot in the city that I know of where the preferred method of driving eastbound is into oncoming traffic. Not only that, with the parallel walk sign signals that we have in the city, school bus idling, the ongoing, that was a 5-year project for the North Washington Street Bridge. That no work has been completed on that, and over 6 months, they're well behind schedule. Traffic backs up all the way up to Hanover Street on a fairly consistent basis. So not only that, as representing the family of across the street, we have issues with block parking as it is, and double parking, illegal parking consistently. So we are strongly opposed to this project.
Thank you, Adam. Next, we'll have Jesse.
Ciara, we do have a question. Do you prefer that the owner operators answer these questions one at a time, or how would you like to handle it?
Yes, if you want to answer them directly, it seems like people just have comments right now, but any of the questions you can answer directly one-on-one. Like after they ask the question, you can go ahead and answer.
Okay, I believe that Liam and Malik are on the Zoom call if they didn't get blocked, so we'll allow them to do that.
Okay, everyone please stay muted. And Jesse, you can go ahead.
Hi, I'm an owner in 454, the building next door. And in the multiple meetings we've had with Bay State Herbal Solutions, they have not said or explained the benefits to the quality of life of the residents in the same building and around. It'd be very nice to hear how the company plans to increase, like, I don't know, the safety, my enjoyment, and other residents' enjoyment of the area.
Hi, so to answer that question, ma'am, directly with the residents, we've tried to make contact, we've tried to reach out so that we can gather what are your thoughts, what would you like to see in your community? We don't want to level, if we're talking right off the tip of our tongues, as you can see, the only things that we can do is offer monetary support. However, if we can have positive engagement and become good neighbors with the community, then we can form the plan to bring exactly what the needs are here, not only for the residents, but for the community. I know in a direct impact, one of the concerns and questions that have come up is things like property value. This is something that directly increases that. There has been many questions, but as of right now, the studies nationally as well as in the state, these are things that directly benefit you, the residents. However, you're right. We are here to ask you today, what can we do to not uplift but enrich the residents here?
Okay, thank you. We can go ahead with Daniel.
Hi, how's it going? I'm also an owner at 454. I have a similar question along Jesse's vein, but more generally, what kind of positive and unique value do you believe Bay State offers the neighborhood? There's several dispensaries in the area. There's a dispensary that's about a 10-minute walk. Most dispensaries have free delivery, so nobody really needs to leave. You're not adding convenience to any of the residents here. You're not adding convenience to any of the community members here. I assume the biggest foot traffic that you're going to get, that you're going after, are the tourists visiting the restaurants for the night. So I'm curious, what unique value are you adding to the community, and, that we don't get from Ascend 10 minutes away, aside from not having to walk 10 minutes? What value are you providing? And aside from monetary reimbursements,
Sure, so to answer your question, the points of differentiation that Bay State Herbal Solution intends is that we will be community-based. We'd like to be a part of the things that are happening right on Hanover Street. Yes, we'd like to be a part of the commuters, the folks that are visiting the restaurants and the entertainment space as well. However, we would like to be unique to the area. We would like to have an aesthetic flow with the the businesses that are already there. And as far as delivery, you're right, you can get delivery from anywhere in the state. So that is not something that does add value. However, we are considered, a grassroots company, and the products, it's a boutique product. So hopefully, the difference between Resonate and us would be the quality of our product and the exclusivity of the cultivators that we intend to work with, due to Liam's experience in the space, his past in cannabis space.
Thank you. Can I just respond to that really quickly?
Sure.
So you talk about being community-based and wanting to integrate with the events and what's happening in the North End. How exactly is cannabis going to tie into the Italian history and culture that's so predominant and treasured around here? Cannabis can't be smoked in public, so it has to be consumed in private spaces. So are you going to have tents out during the festivals in August, for example, handing out joints that people will need to go to their condo and smoke in a private location?
No, but we do support all community events. We do a ton of community outreach. So it's actually mandated by the state as well as the municipality for us to be very specific on who we can plan to contribute. And how do we plan to do that? It's quite simple, is that we can bring monetary value to the space, as well as our presence, as well as sponsoring any events that are in the community. We do them with the municipalities, with the cities, with the towns, and we can. There's no line that says we can't be involved with children events. There is limits that is limitless where we can go with cannabis.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify it was just money that you would bring to the table. Thank you. That's all.
We'll go ahead with Elizabeth.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Goss. I'm the owner of the other business located in the same building. We're an immigration law firm. As you can see in the back of me, that's the front of the street. That is where the buses line up every day with the children. I can also tell you from my experience, we have all kinds of tour groups going up and down the street all day long. The vast majority of them are school-age children. Probably everybody who has a high school student in Massachusetts has their high schooler coming to this part of the neighborhood. We are already a diversity DEI employer. So we employ a diverse number of people. We represent people of color. We represent Latino, Latinas, LGBTQ community. We are already giving and awarding high school students at risk from Chelsea opportunities here. And my concern is that, one, we have talked to the collaboratives. They will not be sending any of our high school students over here if a dispensary goes in, because these kids are at risk and impacted in their own communities by, and this is not a moral issue. It's just the fact that they will not be able to send their kids to work here anymore. And the other thing that is a bigger concern for me as an immigration attorney is that cannabis is still illegal under federal law. So, and it does impact our clients, because if they have any kind of possession of 30 grams or over, you could be, they could be barred from getting a green card. And there's also the security issues. So increased security, the fact that there's going to be cameras, going back to the Boston police office, is going to be deterring people who come to seek our services and support. So this is already a community that is, that is at risk. And we have been here, we have been helping the community. We actually serve the community. We are providing all kinds of free services to people in pro bono and low bono after hours. And, this really negatively impacts our ability to it impacts my ability to do my job. And it also impacts we have, and by the way, we're majority women. It's a women-owned business and majority women in this office. So I have serious concerns about this impacting, along with a myriad of others, but I only have 2 minutes. So that's my main concern. The other thing I want to clarify is that it's my understanding that this is a cash business because you can't bank because of federal banking law regulations. So in fact, if you did want to give money to anybody, it would have to be cash, because it's my understanding from that you cannot, nobody can accept donations from cannabis facilities, because there's no way to accept that donation through a federal bank. So you can't do any transfers except for if it's cash in hand, which I don't think any qualified NGO would be able to accept that. So if I would like that question answered. How do you plan on giving monetary reimbursements to local community organizations if it's going to be done in cash?
Sure, ma'am. So it is a cash business for us as business owners. However, there are multiple banks. We have a bank account. There's multiple credit unions. This is something that is here, although it's not a smooth transition with banking, but it is here. It's present, and we do have banks. Also, it's mandated by the state that we have to negotiate what's called our host community agreement. So if given the opportunity to do so, we do make donations directly to the city. It's actually mandated in any city. And we also have to identify organizations that have been impacted disproportionately by the state, as Liam has also been impacted by the war on drugs. So those are things that are mandated. There's no way around that.
Yeah, my question is, how do people accept it though? Because you can bank through your bank, but people cannot accept it through their federal, any means of federal transaction. So if you do want to donate to somebody, how do people accept it?
Sure, so that's done through the city. That's a question that I'd have to send to the mayor's office, because our HCA is negotiated at that level. So we can identify the organizations through our contract with the city. And from there, we oversee it, it's 5 years, 3 years, whatever the contract is. So with that being said, that is something that the city would have to answer. But banking is allowed, so that we are clear.
Banking is only allowed for certain banks. You can't, but you cannot send any money earned from this kind of business. You cannot send it through an FDIC insured bank. So NGOs, nonprofit organizations, when they accept their donations, they do this through the wire, all kinds of different forms where we send money. That is not allowed. They would not be able to accept your money. Is that true or not? Or am I missing something?
You're missing something. Most credit unions actually do accept it. There's Needham Bank. There are multiple banks in the cannabis space.
But I would have to go to a pot bank. So if my organization doesn't want to do that, then I don't get that. There's no way for me to get money, right?
And we would have to talk about that now at this meeting for you to tell me what organization that you would like to have donated to, and then I will list it in the HCA. So that's why we have this time where we have been out there countless hours trying to connect and find out what the needs are so that we can write them down, because we would like to get past this. We would like to help. And how do we do that? You have to work with us also. So we have to come to the table, and you have to.
You need federal law change to get around that, and that's one of the problems.
That's bigger than both of us. Thank you.
Okay, next we will have, I have just iPhone. I will ask you to unmute.
Hello, sorry, I'm on my iPhone at my daughter's soccer game. My name is Edmund Alcock, and I am counsel for the Harborview Suites Condominium Association. One of the things that hasn't been mentioned during tonight's presentation is that this proposed commercial use or cannabis use is being proposed to occur in what is a condominium. It's primarily, we've got 2 commercial units, Ms. Goss's immigration practice, and the rest of the units in the building are residential. We have children in the building. We believe, the association and many of its owners, that this is not an appropriate use for a building of this nature and this type. Now, putting aside possible nuisance, odors, smells, and other issues that our building residents do not prefer to have in their building, the proposal, as I see it, suggests that there are going to be changes made to building exterior elements, which are common area and which require the approval of the condominium association. They cannot unilaterally be made by a tenant or an owner. Additionally, a portion of the proposal seeks to undertake work and or use in a limited common area basement, which is not exclusively the area of the owner or the tenant. There are things in the basement that service the building, heat, water, electricity, things that the residential owners, the property management company need to get at. And it's going to be problematic if that is a security area. I just think the way our building feels, and by the way, there has been zero reach out to our residents, zero. This proposal was something that was dropped off. There was no effort, no opportunity, no effort whatsoever to try to speak to the residents in our building, who many of whom feel this is being attempted to be jammed down our throat in what is otherwise a primarily residential building. There are many other spots in the city of Boston where a dispensary, cannabis, marijuana might be appropriate. We don't believe it's appropriate in what is primarily a residential building, and especially given that there are certain aspects that are going to require building renovations, which quite frankly, we don't believe are approved. And quite frankly, we don't even believe this use is permitted at this condominium without board approval. So we oppose it. We vehemently oppose it. And we are very disappointed in the fact that there has been zero attempt to reach out to the residents who live in this building and have lived in this building for years.
Okay, I'm gonna have to let you wrap it up.
I'll be done in a second. We don't believe that this is going to improve the value of our units. We actually, our homes, many of these people are in their first homes. They don't believe it's going to be an improvement on the value of their homes. They believe just the opposite. Thank you.
Thank you. I will let them be able to respond now.
Sure, just on the last piece, as far as communications go, I have to beg to differ. Liam, the owner, has been down there countless days, put signs up. I myself have also reached out directly to the condo association. I believe the owners, Ken and Anthony Caruso, are present here as well to speak on this. We have been completely stonewalled by your organization. I can tell you that I have called the Suffolk County Deeds Office. We also received a complete block wall from the organization, from the condo association, as far as the owners are concerned. We've reached out at least 3 times and we have nothing. We've reached out to legal on all ends, and this is something to say, Elizabeth actually put out a vote to try and get the bylaws changed, which we've been trying to see if there has been any thing on that. We actually sent pictures to the city council's office as well on the days that we did post up on the residents' doors, as well as around the community. There has been multiple efforts on our side. I also have direct text messages from 2 of the residents that live here to our realtor, right? They emailed me 30 minutes before the meeting. My email has been available since day 1. I myself have walked with them along with Liam. I'm gonna let Liam speak.
Yeah, I mean, I've made stuff available. I've stood out front with trying not, I can't run down and chase down residents and, invade their privacy. But we've opened the door countless days and made ourselves available for people to come talk to us. Many residents have talked to us from the area. Unfortunately, there was not a lot of residents from 464 who wanted to come and actually speak with us and engage in conversation. I did talk a lot with Liz personally, one-on-one. And we had a conversation, but I can only make myself available. I can't really go knocking down doors or, we sent certified mail. We tried to give everyone a voice in this matter, which is, the whole purpose of this.
We also set up a link specifically for the residents. We asked the association, actually Ken did ask the condo association, the management team, to send a rebuttal out, and we were denied that. So we weren't allowed to have a voice in the process.
The link didn't work.
As far as the condo association and the rules, that is something that legal will handle. I can't tell you that the owner's attorneys as well as our attorneys are working on the language and what's allowed as far as the board. As far as the commercial space, the city of Boston has moved it. We are compliant with zoning, we're compliant with buffer zones, and we are also, as long as there has been a retail or commercial space there previously, we are allowed to propose there. So that is why we picked this location. However, again, we have been trying to reach out specifically to the residents here. And I think that Ms. Goss has seen all of us there at least 2 times. I think that Ms. Goss has stood toe to toe with Liam in front of this place. So to say that there has been no communication or contact, it's a little bit of a stretch.
The posting you sent around, that Zoom link didn't work. We have screenshots to show that we all tried to log in, the Zoom link didn't work. And I can also tell you that the way you have approached me personally is not acceptable. You kept coming in here and asking me questions. This isn't the forum for this, but a lot of what you said is untrue.
Sure.
So, well,
Shane, would like to speak? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Shane Darcy, compliance consultant. I would just like to address the storage issue. I know we know the basement is a mixed use storage. We don't intend to use that for any cannabis related storage at all. All our cannabis and cash on hand will be securely vaulted in independent rooms with limited access to certain employees. So we do not intend to use the basement for storage for any monetary or cannabis products at all.
And also, as far as the next steps, we do have to go through inspection of the business board. So this isn't it. This is just the first step. So the reason we're here now is because we would like to get everything together to be compliant, to be cohesive with the community for the next phase.
Okay, thank you. I will go ahead and allow, it's a phone number, 248-974-9629. I'm not sure if they can hear me because I dialed in. We will go to the next person. I can try again. Joel, I'll ask you to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yes, we can.
Thank you so much. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Before I begin, I would just kindly ask that the folks that seem to be in a conference room move closer to the speaker. I have a hearing disability and there's quite a bit of an echo, so it's just hard to hear your responses. So thank you in advance for that. My name is Marguerite Guglielmo, and my husband Andrea and I live at 357 Commercial Street, so around the corner from the proposed dispensary. I'll try to be brief because our comments aren't new, but I would like to echo some of the concerns that have been raised around the proximity to the school in particular, and also some of the parks and playgrounds that are around the corner. I know that they're trying to put some boundaries in place to prevent people from loitering, but there really, in reality, is nothing preventing patrons of the store from walking down the street to our beautiful waterfront parks to enjoy the products that they purchase, where our children play. So I'm not opposed to a dispensary in general. It's just more that particular location being so close to so many children's activities and amenities is what concerns me. So like I said, keep it brief, but that was really my main concern that I'd like to echo.
Thank you.
Appreciate that question. We do have all-encompassing anti-loitering prevention policy. Nothing is assumed by law in a social area. We can follow that as best we can. We have security on site to ensure that there is no loitering outside. Everything is packaged and sealed tight with child-proof tamper-resistant packaging. Again, we aim to have a good relationship with the Boston Police Department and the Boston City Council, so we can address any issues that we do have with loitering. Again, we're talking about a public street and public parks. We can't police public parks. That's the city's job. All we can do is ensure that outside of our establishment that we prevent loitering as best we can, which again, we do have on-site security. We do have CCTV cameras, and we will foster a good work relationship with Boston PD.
So as far as your concerns with the school, I would like to pass this over to Fuss and O'Neill. Catherine, if you can, so that we are clear, we had our own engineer and we actually hired this engineer because it was referred by the city. So with Liam being social equity, the resources that we are given, he has taken advantage of them as a person who's been impacted. So I do want to just open it up to Catherine from Fuss and O'Neill to speak, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Catherine O'Shea. I'm a transportation engineer with Fuss and O'Neill. I am calling in from our office at 190 High Street in the financial district. We did complete a traffic study on behalf of the applicant for this location. We've done a number of these for different dispensaries in Boston, as Tiffany mentioned. And we did, in this case, because we knew that the proposed dispensary location was close to the Elliott School, we subcontracted the services of a licensed professional land surveyor, and they have provided a map indicating the door-to-door distance. The land surveyor certified distance is just over 500 feet. I believe it was measured at 557 feet. And that map has been included with our traffic study, and those will be made available once we submit them to the Boston Cannabis Board. I believe they will be made available to the public, so people will be able to refer to those materials in the future.
Thank you. Also, I just want to make it clear that we received the traffic study. I got the distance certification yesterday, less than 24 hours ago. Traffic survey was completed in the last literally 6 hours. So we can make that, anything that we submit is open to the public, so we will make that available as well. We can put it on the same link we can send to Ciara.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. Daniel Pascantilli.
Thank you, Ciara. I want to make it known that this is not a NIMBY issue for the North End or for me personally. As you probably done with your research, the North End, and I voted in favor of legalizing marijuana. So it's not a NIMBY issue. It's basically about the location. This is probably one of the worst locations that you could designate in the North End to have a marijuana dispensary. It's within, we're not going to dispute the 557 feet, but it's too close to a school where the school buses are parked up and down Hanover Street and around onto Commercial Street every school day. It presents the young students of that school whose ages start at 4, many who are homeless, are in the care and protection of the Department of Social Services or DCF, and they're at risk youngsters that are vulnerable to this kind of marijuana. I can verify this. I'm a retired chief probation officer, and I want to let you guys understand that that to me, marijuana is a gateway drug, and we can dispute it, but I'm just going to put that on the table. It also should be known that it's so close to our North End Langone Park, our Nazaro Center, where there are many, many families that walk back and forth by this dispensary, a proposed dispensary, from the beginning of spring to the end of the fall. It's not a good location. And in addition, I now find out that there's going to be delivery. This is going to be a nightmare for the people at the corner of Hanover and Commercial Street. I used to live for 72 out of my 75 years at 406 Hanover Street. Those fire trucks go flying down that street regularly. There's traffic jams constantly. And now we're going to have delivery vehicles coming and picking up and delivering your product. I just don't think that this is going to be a good idea. Also,
thank you, Daniel.
You haven't mentioned, I just one quick more comment. Also, you haven't mentioned any safe or secure areas for the dispensary, the delivery of your products, and how you're going to collect the revenue. How is this going to happen? This is going to be a very difficult logistical operation for your proposal. Again, this is not a NIMBY issue. It's a location issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. If you want to go ahead and respond to that, I can click on the next person for a question.
Sure. Thank you, sir, for your input. I'd just like to ask you what a NIMBY is so I could address that, please.
Not in my backyard.
Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry, I really just genuinely wasn't sure what that meant. I would like to say, we do agree with you as far as the traffic with the school buses. This is why we have proposed, and we will be closing down we will not be open at drop off. And the extra steps that we took in the measurements and the certification, the distance with the traffic study was to figure out the times that the school age children are commuting back and forth. So we will close at that time. Also, as far as, at-risk teens, these are the things that we'd like to hear about. This is who we'd like to get back to. I think half of us in the room have been at-risk teens at some point or another. So I do agree with you. There is some work to be done there, and that's why we're here today. Also, education is the biggest thing to this. The biggest thing that we'd like to push is education and responsibility. So also, I respect your position. My background is law enforcement. I'm not an attorney. I've been a correctional officer for 16 years. So I understand and respect the responsibilities as well as the liabilities that come along with this. I understand what this means, putting this in a community. I understand what the delivery, what the commute means. However, as the gentleman said earlier, we're really not making a difference. There's already delivery there. As far as dispensaries go, this is very, very changing. I like to refer this to the railroad, to the industrial times. We're not here to do it by ourselves. There are liquor stores on every corner. We don't want to be that. right? So this is why there are allowances and numbers that have been put in place, rectifications from when the prohibition of alcohol came through. So we're trying to be good neighbors and listen and hear your concerns, and hopefully we can address them in the board meetings.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Joel.
Thank you. I'm speaking here in my capacity as president of the North End Waterfront Neighborhood Council. And I appreciate and take you at your word that you're interested in community feedback and community process. Just want to tell you a little bit about our group. We're a group of elected neighborhood people who give advice to the city on matters related to zoning, liquor board matters. We are not apparently required to weigh in on cannabis board matters. However, I will extend an invitation to you folks to come present before our council, which is another community presentation similar to this one, and give you a vote, give you a fair fair hearing, and make our own recommendation as to what should happen with yet one more form of community feedback, and would ask if you would be interested in attending our meeting. We could schedule you for an upcoming meeting in October and November, and I'll hear your response.
So initially, my gut tells me I'm not opposed to it. However, our actual attorney is not in the room. So what Corinne is actually on Zoom. Corinne, would you like to answer that for us, please? You may not have gotten any.
I can, Joel, you guys can connect offline if you want to email them to see if they would want to come to the board. I did also talk to Liam and everyone. I suggested to meet with the neighborhood groups as well when this first came out. As everyone knows, the city's process and the cannabis process, this is the community outreach. This meeting is meant for that. They don't necessarily have to go to the boards, but it is highly encouraged. And I know Liam had already reached out, so that is something you guys can talk about offline. We will go ahead next with Richard Vita.
This is Corin. I was just asked to speak and to address Mr. Fowler. We would like to connect with you and understand your group and the purpose of the meeting. So perhaps we can do that offline as
Yes.
was just suggested.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
We will meet with Richard Vita now. I'll ask you to unmute.
Hello, I'm Richard Vita. I live in the North End. I grew up in the North End, and I'm a lawyer in Boston. I'm the president of Italian Heritage Month, and I'm deeply involved in the affairs of the North End. I don't know how you possibly thought that this business would be a suitable fit to be located in this residential neighborhood. You are located within 100 yards of 100 yards of a church, 100 yards in a 25 yards of another church, and a community that is encouraging and flourishing with raising young children and families. And it's simply not going to win the support of the residents of the North End. It just will not happen. I can tell you as plain as day that this is not something that will be welcomed by the residents of the North End. And we have a history of uniting when we feel that something that works against the character and values of the residents of the North End is seeking to bring the business there. It's a that belongs in a different area. It's simply one that the residents of the North End will not support. So you can continue with the process. I would like you to undertake some way to measure whether or not the North End.
Thank you, Richard. I'm gonna ask you to wrap it up, please, so we can move along.
One thing, Ciara, I want it on the record that I do not believe these Zoom meetings are appropriate for a full and fair hearing of the residents. Not
Thank
just,
you. It's city protocol right now to have this on recording. Nothing is in person right now, so I will take note of that. Thank you, and I will go ahead and move to the next person. Damien?
Hi. Hi, Ciara. Thank you for this meeting. First off, I want to agree with Richie. This is inappropriate to have a meeting of this magnitude on Zoom, but I do understand what's going on with the city. As far as you guys from Bay State, you know, the neighborhood doesn't want you here. Why bother? Go somewhere else. It's a bad corner. There's a lot of, the traffic is horrible there. There are going to be accidents. There's going to be people lined up out in the street. Our streets are going to smell and reek. I've spoken to residents in that building. I'm a resident of the neighborhood. I've spoken to residents in that condominium building. They said you have not reached out to them. They say you sent them a Zoom link that did not work. And I really, honestly, the way some of you are speaking, you speak with a sense of entitlement and arrogance that is not appreciated. We don't want you here. You're near our schools. You're near our churches. We have 2 dispensaries and a third coming soon within 10 minutes of walking distance, okay? You know, you want to do what's good for the neighborhood and you make it seem like you want to do what's good for the neighborhood. Let me tell you something. Go somewhere else. That's what's good for the neighborhood. You're close to, this is a neighborhood that has had drug problems since I was a child. I've lost friends that died from overdoses. This is a slap in the face to North End against drugs. We have a music school for children. You're near both Elliott schools. You're near a bunch of churches. We don't want you here. And another thing, I want to thank Aaron and Luigi, but I haven't heard yet from Gigi Coletta, haven't heard from Lydia Edwards, haven't heard from Michael Flaherty, Erin Murphy, haven't heard from Ed Flynn. And Ciara, you don't need to answer this right now. Where does Mayor Wu stand on this? You know, hopefully you guys didn't backdoor this thing in and it's already a given. But if the condo association doesn't want you there, that's step number one. Okay, I would love to hear from our elected officials who we elected to represent us. We don't want you in this neighborhood. Go somewhere else. Your traffic study is going to be biased, obviously, because you paid for it. It's like me paying for an appraisal. When I get an appraisal on my property, it's going to be biased.
I'm going to ask you to wrap it up, please.
Yeah, okay, I will wrap it up right now. Thank you. You know, I don't know who you guys have as a lobbyist, who you're paying, but something's not right here. And if you end up in that location, let me tell you, the neighbor's not going to want you. Go somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you. We can move on to the next. And Damien, just to state, as a representative of the neighborhood services in the mayor's office, our office does not take a stance on this. So there's no back doors like you have mentioned. We don't take a stance.
I didn't accuse you of the back door.
No, I know you didn't, but I just want to make
there's other ways of backdooring. Everyone
Yeah.
seems so smug from Bay State, like it's already a done deal. Let me tell you, you're gonna have a tough fight. You're gonna be spending a lot of money on lawyers because we're not gonna let you in. Okay? Mark my words, Damien DiPaola.
And as I mentioned,
find me if you want to talk.
Thank you, Damien. There's
You're
there's no decisions being made tonight, as I stated at the beginning. And we will go with Sarah. I will ask you to unmute and lower your hand.
Hi there. Okay. So I couldn't figure out how to share a picture, so I'm going to use my background here. I know we've brought up the buses many times, but just for those of you who think that the buses don't really line right up, you can see over here, that right there for Liaison is where it is. I appreciate very much. I'm a North End resident. I'm a parent of 2 kids who go to the Elliott. We're involved. We use the pool, we use the fields, you know, we take advantage of the neighborhood. That's why we live here and love it. I'd like to say that on top of the school issue being very close and in the spirit of the 500 feet, if not coming up exactly according to yours, there's been other ones that showed it at under 500. And also there's another pathway through Greenow that was tracking in the 300 something, but that's for measurements to be on record. The school buses are there. We appreciate that you're going to close for a while. When you close, that's a great idea, but however, there's still going to be people waiting. If you close for 30 minutes while the buses are there, that just means that people are going to wait outside. It doesn't mean people are going to miraculously not come from 2 o'clock until 4 o'clock while there's kids and everything. Someone else mentioned the number of tourists and the amount of school field trips and everything that track back and forth. It just creates already crowds and crowds of people that we're cutting around. We love that about our neighborhood. We want to share it out with the community, with state, people from other countries. I'm also not against the fact that cannabis is legal. Cannabis dispensaries are legal in the city of Boston. However, it feels like they're best suited for locations that they have been. Downtown Crossing in downtown area, Milk Street, areas that are less foot traffic heavy, not as close to children's activities, not as tourist centric, where people seek out and are able to get it. Additionally, on Canal Street, close to other options, but there's not that residential feel. There's not the residential opposition to it. Then you keep saying that you're willing to, you know, here to listen. We know that this is a comments meeting. This is not a decision meeting. And the neighborhood and the city residents are saying that we don't think this is the right spot for you and you should look at another location. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. We can go ahead and move to the next person. Nicole, I will ask you to unmute and lower your hand.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having this meeting. My name's Nicole. I am a resident in the neighborhood. I'm also co-president of St. Agrippina Society, which is at 459 Hanover Street, 463 Hanover Street. We have tenants in the building, and we also have the statue that we process in the neighborhood during the first weekend of August. That's where really the source of my concern is going in on the corner.
Cannabis dispensary in the North Bank.
Everybody hear me okay? Okay.
Yes, I can. Can I just ask that everyone mute themselves, please?
Thanks. Thank you, Ciara. So as far as the feasts go and, you know, having the societies on that block, I can already see the issues that we're going to run into having our own kids there. As everybody else is worried about, you know, the kids at the school, of course, we also have a huge amount of kids that participate in these events all weekend long. And it's not just my society. There is the St. Joseph Society. There is the Madonna della Cava Society. And for the majority of August, we're out there with our families, with our kids. There's vendors selling in the streets. There's obviously the religious aspect to this. So it just doesn't seem like it's going to be a good fit on that block anyways. That being said, with that experience and running the feast for so long on that same block, we know that block very well. When 7-Eleven was open there, it was a high crime area. There was a lot of, you know, people that shouldn't be there trespassing, a lot of drug use, a lot of alcohol use, lots of fights, lots of congregation with young teens, lots of issues, and almost all of our attention was on that corner when that 7-Eleven was open. And I can't see it being much of a different situation with a business like this being open. That on the same note, running the feast, we pay for, you know, cleanup and sanitation and all of that during the weekend. If you've ever been down to Ascend in North Station, you know that as soon as you get to the top of the street, there's wrappers and bags and all sorts of Ascend labeled everything everywhere. You can't escape it. While I respect that you have, you know, protocol in place to make sure that nobody is loitering in front of your step, where they're going to walk down and smoke it is going to be in my feast. It's going to be around our kids, and we're going to have to be picking up the litter of that. Speaking separately as a resident, you know, this is, I gotta echo some of the other opinions here. This isn't the neighborhood for it. We are heavily populated with old people and kids. I don't know who your audience is. I don't know who's walking in here into this neighborhood to buy weed. They're looking to buy food and they're looking to see their families. that's really the extent of what I have to contribute here, but I wanted to make sure I spoke on behalf of the societies that put a lot of care and respect into that particular section, into that particular block. We hang our lights, we hang our streamers, and we have, like I said, our statues, which I know to the people in this room might not mean a lot, but they're saints that represent our heritage. And, you know, again, not against weed, not against any of that stuff, but the atmosphere for it really is not this block. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. I don't know if you guys want to make a comment towards that. If not, I can go to the next person.
Yes, ma'am. I would just like to say, as you pointed out, on certain peak times of year, that is crime, drug use, litter, trash in that area. We feel as though being on that corner potentially can only help out. Again, with our robust security, CCTV camera systems, our relationship with the Boston PD. I don't think will be a hindrance to, we'd actually be a net positive to helping decrease that crime with our presence there. That's how we feel with our security measures.
Thank you. I move on to the next, Mary O'Neill. I will ask you to unmute and lower your hand.
Sorry for the delay. So I want to echo a lot of the existing statements in opposition. I think it is unfortunate that we're hearing about the distance survey being completed today, the day of this meeting, when this question and the circumstances regarding whether the applicants have met the distance of 500 feet from the Elliott School could have been fleshed out before we got to this stage. Using public records, I myself looked over surveyed plans for the multitude of properties between the corner of Commercial Street and Hanover Street, and walking along plans in public records, one can establish that directly across from one of the entrance, one heavily used entrance to the Elliott School is only 430 feet. So that plus the distance of the Charter Street, I would be very interested to see how the applicant gets to over 500 feet from the school. However, with that in mind, regardless of whether 500 feet is met by the applicants, this proposal is totally inappropriate for the location. The spirit of the law is that children are not exposed to this, children in pre-existing elementary schools. We have, as has been raised by other speakers, we have school buses lining up right outside there. We have a number of playgrounds right in the area. Whether or not this happens, or whether or not the store is open during school hours or limited to after school hours, kids are in this area, as the applicants would see if they were around. Kids go all throughout the Prado. The Prado is treated as an extension of the Elliott playground. Kids are around all the time. If this were in the location that's proposed, we would have overflow and problems to all of the public parks that are in the immediate area. Number one, Greeno Lane. There's already a pre-existing problem in Greeno Lane for drug use. It would be a wonderful place for people to walk out the door, around the corner, down an alley, and into the quiet places in Greeno Lane to smoke up whatever they just purchased, or to use other products that are purchased at the dispensary. We have that in the Prado. It's already a place where sometimes it's problematic with drug use and homelessness and vagrancy overnight.
Mary, I'm gonna ask you to wrap it up, please.
As was raised by one of the other applicant or one of the other speakers, these applicants are looking for this spot because of the restaurant traffic and because of the tourist traffic that exists. The neighborhood would feel the impacts of the users in this location. I am fully opposed to this location. Whether the precise measure of the law is met, this is a location that the spirit of the law is violated with all of the kids in the area. And I agree with their commenters that this is not something that will be enriching to the neighborhood. When the residents nearby are telling you that it would take away from their property values, it's not adding back to our neighborhood. So I don't think it's for the neighborhood. I don't think it's for the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. We can go ahead with Christine. I will ask you to unmute.
I'd like to respond to that, please, Ciara.
Yes, you can. Christine, I'll let them respond and then you can go ahead.
Thank you. So as in regards to the traffic study, ma'am, we engaged with Fuss and O'Neill at 8-9 in August when we first got the green light to go from the city. It took their engineers, as you know, and much of everywhere nationally, these trades are pretty backed up. Working on any project, it does take that time. I have continuous emails. The city did reach out to us a week ago. I have gone back and forth asking, have there been any emails, any questions in regards to this? Because we, like you, also have been waiting for this meeting. Also, there are two different measures. There's the crow's fly measurement, and there's what's also the impassable, because we cannot drive or we cannot walk through those buildings. We have to measure it by the shortest walking distance. That language is also posted on the Boston Cannabis Board's website. And I too have been paying attention to the Boston Development and Planning website. And I also took a look at the boutique hotel down at the other end that is coming. So I appreciate your input, because you are accurate. Much of the things that you have said are the same things that we've looked at while preparing for this meeting, as far as the parks and, and the drug abuse and those things. We do have to get it's war on drugs is what the disproportionate areas, how they consider those. So a lot of, being a social equity applicant, being directly impacted by that, a ton of our efforts are to help with homelessness in the parks, help to feed the people that are in the parks. It's to help bring in the education. And I won't get into the debate of gateway and or, there is tons of research. We have a botanist on our team. We're not lawyers, and we're not the corporate folks that you think. Liam is a regular person, and he also deserves the chance to, in life, rebound from being affected by the war on drugs. Also the owners of this retail establishment within this condominium building has the right as well to have their business there. We have been engaged with them since May. The process is very long. We have been paying tenants here with a lease since May. I very much respect your opinion, and we have been pretty stonewalled when walking through there. The folks who have engaged with us, I will say this again, there has been a vote put out to bar us from being there. We have nothing on that yet. So therefore, I cannot speak to the residents wanting or not. That would have been a 75% vote. Outside of this, within the community, we have walked up and down Hanover Street, Commercial Street, directly across the streets. We've talked with the garages, we talked with the Coast Guard workers, not directly them. We have been trying, and we will continue to try. And I do respect your efforts and your research.
Thank you. Christine, you can go ahead.
Yes, hello, my name's Christine, and I was the first buyer from 464 Hanover back in February of 2000. I'd like the people on the Bay State end to raise their hand and show me how many of you have marijuana dispensary within, downstairs from you. Just a show of hands, just a show of hands. All right, how about 100 feet? How about 500 feet?
Yes.
And how has it changed your neighborhood? Did the property values go up? Another thing is, when a woman said she was, may I finish? A woman on this call from the neighborhood said she was hearing impaired, and could you all move together? No one did. How accommodating are you going to be to us when you could not even be accommodating to someone who is hearing impaired? I'd like someone to speak on that.
Thank you, Dwayne. Can you please answer the first question in regards to how does cannabis change for the people who live directly in those buildings as far as property values, insurance? I'm not sure if Denise was able to.
You're not answering my question. That's a giant pivot. That is a giant pivot. Answer the question, please. Answer the question.
Which one?
The one about why didn't you move together to answer a hearing impaired woman from this neighborhood?
Because it's too heavy to move it, and we're staying. I did closer. We turned up the volume on our speaker. If at any point we can come directly to wherever we need in person to meet with that person who is hearing impaired, but we discussed it.
Okay, so how many people live within 100 feet of a? Okay, do tell. I'd like to hear your story.
So he's not answering that. Dwayne, the person who has the actual data, because this is opinion. So
we're not data, we're people. We're residents. Do you understand? This is a neighborhood.
With all due respect, Ciara, I can tell
you answered my question.
You
answered my question. You're pathetic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we will move on to the next person. Mark, I will ask you to unmute and lower your hand, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for putting this together. I voiced a lot of the same concerns as the neighborhood folks. So I won't reiterate that, but as a trustee of the building, I was probably the second person to buy 2 units in that building back in 2002, I believe it was. So, and I've been a trustee of that building on and off for the last 20 plus years. And I just want to call some balls and strikes here. You know, I've been contacted by some folks that were trying to sell their units, and they found out through the grapevine that this was going on. Okay, I facilitated this call to our management company. We started finding out a little bit more about this, probably about a month or so before I found that out. We had an owners meeting with the owner of that property, not you, Liam, not for the leasing, but for the owner of the property. Never brought it up, so they didn't have the respect to talk to us about this and, you know, let us know what was going on. So that's the first point. You know, the school issue is, you know, you mentioned about education and all this and that. You know, I'm looking at something from this website, this Queens Bridge, what, you know, even Barbie takes a hit. I mean, that speaks for itself. So this is what we're talking about, these kind of folks that want to come into this place. Again, as a trustee, as an owner of the building, I take my job is the fiduciary responsibility of this building and how it improves the value for renters, for not just for renters, but for owners. Whatever people want to do, that's my job, is to get the roof fixed, get air conditioning done, and so forth. The exterior that you put forth, that hasn't been presented to us. Again, you haven't come to me at all. I've been in this building for 20 plus years. All I've seen is stuff dropped off inside my building. I don't know how you got inside my building. And I understand that you've been, Liam personally has been, came into Elizabeth's place of business more than once, twice, a few times, you know, congregating outside the place, on the corner, on my corner, in front of my building. So I don't know what that's all about, but I understand that that's been quite a battle for her. And we spent a lot of time on this because of what's going on with the situation with you folks. You know, you can't get into that basement. I can't get into my basement with you there, having that door locked and not able to get in. So is this building going to be open 24 hours a day with your cash inside and your drugs and marijuana, whatever it is? We need to get into that building. If I have a water heater or something like that breaks down and I got to get in there at 2 o'clock in the morning. So that's another issue. It isn't a separate entrance. So that is a problem. Again, as a trustee, and you know, I'm not speaking for everybody in the building, but we're shooting this down. Everybody's against this that you've spoken to tonight, that you've heard from. So maybe I'll give you one question that you can answer. With all of this you're facing, is it worth it for you to keep going on? We don't want it in the building. 464 Harborview Suites does not want this here. What is your reaction to that?
Sure,
Thank
so,
you.
absolutely. Again, this meeting is open for folks who are opposed to it to come here and speak on it so that we can work on if there are any, you know, security. Do you want it? We're trying to see, are there things that we can do to help you?
I think you've been given enough items to, I'm sorry to interrupt. I respect your time being here and I know you have a job to do, but with all this opposition, why would you still want to be in this place where everybody is telling you it's the wrong place? It's not a moral issue. It's put it in a place where it belongs.
So if you please let me answer the questions, guys. If you guys ask me questions, allow me to answer them. With that being said, we don't have complete opposition. If we did, the vote would have come in and we wouldn't be having this discussion today. Also, the owners that they are from Boston as well, and the owners of the property, how about their rights? They don't have any?
My rights as the building owner? Yes, I do have a right as the building, as an owner in the building. Yes, I do.
What about Ken and Tony that own in the building? You know, so these are things that we understand.
He needed to come, yeah, sure. I mean, he could come to us and discuss it and come up with a plan.
We did try, sir, so I will just leave it.
No, he did not. No, he did not. We had an owners meeting and it was never brought up. Ma'am, you wouldn't, excuse me, you need to listen to what I have to say here. We had an owners meeting. We have agendas that people are asked to put in items. to discuss. This is a pretty big issue and it was not brought on that agenda. So I'm sorry, but you don't have my vote. Thank you very much. And I really don't appreciate you not answering any of these questions. Next.
Okay. Thank you. Joe, do you want to go? I will ask you to unmute yourself and lower you. I think you're already unmuted.
Excuse me, are you speaking to me, Joe?
Yes.
My name is Joe Carrigal. I've been a lifelong resident of the North End, born and raised. And at this particular time, I own a number of buildings in the North End. I own 5 within 100 yards of this location. One of them completely abuts it on Greeno Lane. And I've heard many comments about traffic studies and so forth. And being in real estate 45 years and owning many, many properties, you can get a traffic study to say anything you want it to say. Knowing the area, being there quite frequently, there's always traffic jams there. There's always double parked cars there. This establishment is the worst idea I've ever heard. It's always going to create traffic jams and double parking. You're not going to be able to stop it. They created a bike lane on Commercial Street, lessening the traffic flow to 1 lane. You're also talking about fire trucks taking a left to get onto the Tobin Bridge or to get to Charlestown or North Station. Making a statement by saying that you're going to increase property values. The only property value that's going to be increased is the person that owns that condo, because they haven't been getting any rent there for 8 years or 7 years, however long it's been. So I don't know who you're trying to fool by saying you're going to increase property values. You're going to create traffic problems. You're going to have people hanging outside. I received referring to Damien mentioning that the city council did not respond. Gabriel Coletta sent me an email saying she's opposed to it, and so did Aaron Murphy, opposed to it. The North End is a very, very unique place. And part of it is all the Italian heritage. They had mentioned the saints and so forth. There's 2 Italian festivals on Hanover Street in front of this location 2 weeks in the summer. Do you think people want to come to the North End to see a cannabis store in lime green, as you had shown in your display? And you're trying to say that you're trying to lower the lower level key so people won't notice it? People aren't going to notice lime green. So I know this is not good for the neighborhood. It's not good for me. The only person it's good for, whoever owns this store and the people that rent to the store, the landlord, that landlord of that unit. That's it. You're trying to pull the wool over the eyes of the North End.
Joe, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up, please.
I'm opposed to it, and I will do everything in my power to stop it.
Thank you. Would you guys like to respond to that, or I can move on?
Sure. Just so that we're clear, that design is conceptual. We haven't gone through the inspectional phases yet. So next, after engineering, we have to go to the architect. So there will not be lime green walls or white. That is so that for purposes of the presentation, we're very clear on where the location is, sir, with all due respect.
Thank you. We can move on to Anthony. I will ask you to unmute and lower your hand.
Okay, I think I'm muted. I'm going to be brief. First, I appreciate the presentation and I understand how it is. I'm an attorney and sometimes I represent unpopular causes because you have to. But I just like to reiterate a few points that other people have made. I looked up the regulation on the 500-foot buffer and it says straight line, but then it does say if you can't get there, then you go by the nearest walkway. Just to reiterate the point, you're cutting it extremely close to even being legal. And I haven't seen whether there are any alleyways that the kids use, so it's just really close to the 500-foot mark. Secondly, as other people have mentioned, there's a place that I've heard is very great. A place called Ascend, and there are others in the area, very close walk, and they have everything that people need. Third, about it seems like you want to cater to, or at least part of your market is going to be restaurants. People who come for restaurants, you're going to change the character of the neighborhood. So people won't come to the dinner anymore to get or to the cafes to have a coffee. They'll say, oh, let's make it, you know, you're going to change the character of who wants to come to the North End. So I just hope you, and I don't know much about the specific building, but it does seem to be an imposition on those that live there. So I just hope you will consider those points as to whether this is the best place for it, and the negative impact it'll have on the neighborhood, and that it's an appropriate place in another location. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. If you guys want to respond to that, feel free to do so. If you guys are all set, or. Okay, we can move on to the next person. Peter, I will ask you to unmute and lower your hand, please.
Hi, I still have some concerns about security situation. So you mentioned there will be security at the store during opening hours, and the city will be responsible for the waterfront park and other areas around the dispensary. So I just would like to hear how you think that security during opening hours is going to be sufficient, and during the hours when the school buses are there, the store will close, but there might still be customers. So what do you think can be done about security situation in the surrounding blocks and parks?
Yes, sir. Thank you for that question. Our security is going to be on site from before we open to after we close. Our closed hours are 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Security will get there around 8:30. Leave shortly after the building secures. So we'll have 2 on-site security people at all times, one at the front door and an interlock, checking IDs, mandatory 21 to enter the facility. We do have a all-encompassing security plan that we're not going to share on a public forum for obvious security reasons, but we will have security on staff the whole time we're open. In the morning, with the kids going to school, we won't be open. And again, we propose to close for a respectable amount of time when the kids do come back from school. We want to reiterate again too, the outside of the building, there was a little confusion. The lime green in the presentation was conceptual to show exactly where the location is going to be. We're not going to have lime green walls in the north end. It's going to mix well. We're going to have just one signage saying the company that we are, Bay State Herbal Solutions, and that's it. You'll not be able to see, inside the building. Everything, the windows will be handsomely done over. Kids walking by will not be able to look in and see marijuana products on display or anything like that. Again, we don't plan on using the basement for any storage. All our cash on hand and our products will be vaulted and secured with limited access. And again, we'll have security on site the whole time that we're open, shortly before and shortly after. As far as loitering, litter go, we're going to do everything we can to police litter around our storefront. Same with security, but our security people obviously aren't city employees, they're not police officers. The goal is to maintain a positive relationship with Boston Police Department. If we do need to use those services to ensure that there's no loitering, to ensure that there's no disruption, then we will. But if anybody has not been to a marijuana retail shop, it's essentially a highly secured retail shop like anything else, just more security and more regulations.
I would like to add that we have reached out to Boston PD and it is a process. So we're not allowed to sit down yet with the police chief, but we are required to do so with the fire as well as the police. So we will, those plans, and we will train accordingly with the police as well. And most of our Williams team, as well as the Weeks team, we do have law enforcement background, plenty of certifications to back that. Our resumes will be made available to the city. We are required to give all of our background information as managerial advisors and things of such nature.
Yeah, I also see a lot in the chat. It says about Boston resident. Part of being social equity and for the regulations, you have to actually live 7 years continuously in Boston. I'm born here. I've lived here the past decade. I've lived here my whole life except for about 4 or 5 years in California. And I did notice that a lot of people were saying about 30 locations. None of those are marijuana retail locations. That's basically a tobacco store and tobacco accessories. So me and my partner don't own any other cannabis stores. I would just like to make that clear.
Or licenses, this would be the first for them. Leo made a good point. Boston Equity is an extra step that the city of Boston has added on top of social equity, which is, certain set of requirements. Also Massachusetts, you must be a Massachusetts resident. So with the city of Boston, there are extra steps on top of that, and he has been certified. He has had to provide a strenuous amount of paperwork and background showing and proving that he is from Boston, like he said, for the last 7 years. And also, as far as social equity and why it really applies to the city of Boston, the city has done a really good job at giving folks like Liam the opportunity to do business like the big MSOs. Liam is not an MSO, nor is he. They are grassroots. Liam, what it means to be social equity. He's actually done probably one of the best jobs at putting his team together and partnering with somebody who's not a big MSO, not looking to take over his business. He is the principal, so that we're clear. Yes, Malik was born outside of the US. However, this is some of the things that were brought up before as they're brought up in the chat. I think he's proven himself as a very responsible and successful businessman here. These are things that Liam will need to succeed. He has auxiliary companies that complement the space. So these things are this experience. I don't think Liam could have had a better partner. He's able to help him become stronger and continue to hold those ties to Boston while doing so.
Thank you.
Thank you. We can move on to the next person. Tanya, I will ask you to unmute and lower your hand.
Thank you, Ciara. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, while I appreciate all the work that has gone into this pursuit, I can confidently say that it's in vain. The North End has become experts in keeping people out who do not belong in this neighborhood. So challenge accepted. One question that I have for you that will probably require transparency on your part is to understand where you are in this process, who you need to be approved by, because that part has not been completely clear to me, may have been made clear in the beginning. So who do you need to go in front of, be approved by? What is the process where you're, up and running on the corner of Hanover and Commercial and you cut your ribbon, which won't happen, but what is the process? Who do you need to appear before so that we can be there for every battle?
Sure. So the next steps that from here is we do have to go in front of the Boston Cannabis Board. And then after that, if approved or given the green light to go forward, we do have to go in front of the ISD Board of Appeals. And then we would have to go in front of the CCC, which is the State Licensing Board. So where are we at right now? We're at the community outreach process. We're at step 1. This is the beginning. The first step of the process is finding a location that meets all of the requirements, and then you can pursue it. Cannabis is a backwoods business. So unfortunately, it makes it look like we're operating. It makes it look like, you're a company that's established, because that's the way the state has required to be done. So where we're at exactly is at ground zero. And I'd like to ask you a question. So since I understand the opposition, I understand how strong the community is. I do know that this location, multiple businesses have tried to be put there. What would you all like to see there?
Not you.
And not
Thank
you.
you for your
There's a
question.
lot of things you could put in there. You could put a hardware store, you could do a WeWork station. There's many things you could do there. And that, something that complements the neighborhood, and you'd be supported for it from the building, from the community. It's the wrong, all this stuff about security and money and traffic. Yeah, that's all important. But the issue is we don't want a pot dispensary in the neighborhood, in that building, on that street. That's it. It's not personal. It's not a moral issue. We don't want it. Nobody wants this. The community has spoken. This is a community outreach. It's
Thank
not just the people that are against it, it's the people that are for it. I haven't heard one person said, this is a wonderful idea and I can't wait for you to open the doors.
Thank you. I'm not actually quite done here.
Sorry.
So that's quite all right. It's fine. So Boston Cannabis Board, ISC Board, the CCC, and then do you need any support from public officials? Because as it looks like Gabrielle Coletta, Aaron is not for this. How does that process work? Maybe Ciara, you can get that to us as well.
So the process is posted directly on Boston City's website. If you click under cannabis and equity, there is a very detailed description of every single step with this actually charts. Boston did a great job. Also with that, I think that's the best route because we'd be here all night. And yes, we have actually reached out and sent our plans over. So it's news to us that they don't approve. So we're actually waiting. We haven't heard back from any city officials. So just like you guys said earlier, you haven't heard anything, nor have we. So this is news to us and thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to iPhone MB. I will ask you to unmute and lower your hand.
Hopefully I think I raised my hand again. Sorry about that.
No worries. We can hear
No.
you. You're good.
Sorry about that, Ciara. My name's Mary Ellen and I have a child in the Elliott School. I've lived in the neighborhood for a very long time as well, over 25 years. And, I agree. I mean, we have a cannabis dispensary in a half a mile in one direction and a half a mile in the other direction. They're legal, it's allowed, whatever. But my concerns relate to the location as well. I mean, I think really anywhere along Commercial Street, since we've already had one lane that's been taken in traffic. The traffic is almost gridlock most days to your location. It's backed up from the Charlestown Bridge, at least to the fields and very often to the Coast Guard base now already. Everyone can say people won't drive, but of course they will drive, whether they drive cars or they take Ubers or Lyfts. We already have a horrible problem with the rideshare situation and the kids going to school. I have personally had to yell in the windows of cars to stop them from running over kids that are in the crosswalks, the ones where we don't have, aren't fortunate enough to have a crossing guard at them because people aren't paying attention. I just really fear that this is a recipe for disaster. I understand that you're going to close during a certain portion of the day when the kids are, I guess going and coming from school. But the reality is that doesn't happen at one time. A lot of the kids are in an after school program. My son is in an after school program. And so there is transportation. There are kids moving around, for a good chunk of the day. I mean, you really have kids going, from place to place. They walk between the schools. The Elliott School is a campus of 3 different buildings, and the kids are walking between those buildings. We utilize the Boston Public Library, so the kids are walking to the library. They're walking to the fields to use those for their physical education. They're walking between the 3 different buildings. All of those things are factors. Excuse me?
I'm just going to ask you to wrap it up so I can call the next person just to be cautious of time.
Okay. I also want to say the measurements of the distances, I would call that into question. We actually measured it with a tape measure because there were so many conflicting things coming about. There are different walking paths. You can walk, yes, along Charter Street and Hanover Street, but you can also walk down Greenough Lane onto Commercial Street. And that distance is 370 feet to the building from the front door of the Elliott and 400 feet to the actual front door. And from the, there's 2 entrances to the building at the Elliott. And from one of them, it is definitely under 500 because like I said, we did it using various apps and also with an actual tape measure. And so I think that, that's it. And Mary O'Neill, said many of the things that I think many of us have been talking about. and I understand you guys are saying that you've made an investment into this location, but the people in that building have made an investment. We've all made an investment in this. You're talking about traffic studies of when there was a 7-Eleven there. That was a very long time, and there were 4 lanes of traffic in front of it. We just had to make Hanover Street one way for part of the street because the traffic on Hanover Street is already so difficult. When I came down the to do some measurements one day, 2 buses of like 50 tourists were dropped off on the corner right outside the location that we're talking about. So I think if you look at all of those things and how realistic this is, I think it comes into question. I'm sorry if I went over, Ciara. I appreciate your time, and thank you all for for your time and for doing this presentation.
It's okay. Thank you.
So in regards to the traffic study, ma'am, myself, Liam, we also walked, and you're right, there's multiple variations of ways to get there, but we did hire one of the most reputable companies that have experience with these certifications. So these are things that we did take into careful consideration, and I do respect your opinion on that. As far as the traffic study, they didn't use an old traffic study. I was making reference to that because we did find that there is a 60% less foot traffic, as well as overall traffic based on all other establishments, the 7-Eleven, the Dunkin' Donuts that was proposed and turned down there, Starbucks in the area. So that's where I was making reference. But to be clear, we did not use an old one, which we use a very current one. They were taking actual pictures, footage. They were there, countless hours, and I was in touch with them to be sure of that. And the other piece is, I do have a small child myself, so I completely understand the concern. I would like to say very, very candidly that, unfortunately, times are changing, and now it's boiling down to education. Is it something, we're blue collar. I'm not a smoker. That doesn't mean, I'm not opposed to it. So I completely understand the concerns to these things, but I would like to express how education on all ends, parenting matters, educating our kids. Cannabis is no longer a illegal substance. This is no different than alcohol. I educate my child because I don't want her when she turns 21 to just walk out the door and the first time she sees it, it's on her own. She's 11, and we talk about it. We talk about it responsibly, like we talk about everything else, so that we hope that we could be a part of that, making awareness for children as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We can go to Steve. I'll ask you to unmute and lower your hand.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ciara. I appreciate the opportunity to address you and the board. I live directly across the street in another condominium on the opposing corner of Commercial and Hanover. I'm also strongly opposed to this project, and as many others have said before me, this is the wrong neighborhood. Just the security concerns alone. We have the U.S. Coast Guard, we have the guardsmen across the street. We have the Elliott School around the corner, has been discussed. We have 2 churches, both St. Stephen's and St. Leonard's, just down the street, a block and 2 blocks away. We have a lot of kids, as has been discussed, and as several people have mentioned, we have a high number of elderly people. So, one of my concerns is that this will be an attraction to homeless people and people with various mental illnesses or substance abuse. And I say this with some experience in that I have been, for many years, I've been a volunteer downtown at both a homeless shelter and a food kitchen. And many, if not a majority of the clients have substance abuse issues that the clients suffer from. If not a majority, many of the clients suffer from either emotional or psychological disorders. And despite your assurances that loitering will not happen, I'm telling you from close observation over many years, it is going to happen. There are those that have mental disorders that I either spurred them into the direction of substance abuse or the reverse.
They
Steve, I'm
have
going to ask
substance
you to wrap
abuse.
it up, please.
Okay, so a very common result of these is that the clients will tend to hang around for hours at a time near the facility to either panhandle or to buy more drugs. And usually it's within 2 to 3 blocks of such a facility. While they're waiting for their next opportunity. And that puts the entire surrounding neighborhood in I won't say jeopardy, but it certainly makes the quality of life less than it should be. So, and makes it less safe. So I thank you for your time, and I again want to register my strong opposition as personally and as a trustee for the building literally on the opposing corner. Thank you, Ciara.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dwayne, are you available to comment on studies of crime nationally as well as local?
I'm sorry, with regards to are we talking about the property values?
Property values and crime and insurance. From an insurance perspective, what we've seen with cannabis in residential areas as well.
Yeah. Many of the studies that I did come across referenced the fact that cannabis, the legalization of cannabis, is progressive. And in this day and age, it's becoming more and more widely utilized in emerging cities that are developing and becoming more and more, I want to say, attractive to tourists, to residents. This has had a positive impact on the values of real estate. It has, created different markets such as Airbnb and situations, where people are doing vacation rentals. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. I thought I was on mute, but we already have that. So go ahead. Sorry about that.
And what I'm just reflecting on is the premise that I think we're losing sight here. And I think what we're trying to do here is we're trying to paint a different picture of a dispensary. We're trying to not just be a business that dispenses cannabis responsibly, but we also want to play a role in the community. The last gentleman mentioned mental health. There are a lot of positive attributes with this product, and we're not trying to market something everyday and average. This is an elite product. It's being developed by the best cannabis producers, and I think it's not going to be appealing to the homeless or some of the less desirable people that are being referenced. And I think this area, though I understand the concern, I don't believe the children would be put in any harm's way. The whole logic behind this is to make a conservative place to sell this product, and that's entirely what's being presented.
Thank you for that. I just still want to be cautious of time, and for people who still have their hand raised, I do just want to make it known that if someone has already said something that you agree with or want to just double state, to just send that over via email, a letter to me and to the Cannabis Board, so we can be respectful of everyone's time tonight. But with that being said, I will let Conrad go ahead. I will ask to unmute and lower your hand.
Yeah, hi, this is Conrad. I've been a North End resident for about 2 years. And one thing I've noticed living here is that there is quite a community here. And the history of this neighborhood, the community of this neighborhood, is something that brings in a lot of foot traffic, which is an asset both to this community and potentially to Bay State. And you all say you want to be engaged with the community. I think probably the main reason you want to come to this community is that there is the foot traffic from the wonderful community that we have here. In order, I think, to, in good faith, engage with the community, as you say you want to, I'd expect some amount of due diligence to appreciate and learn the history of the community. I noticed in the initial presentation and in the conversations here, that hasn't really been stated. So I'd like to give someone from Bay State the opportunity to demonstrate that they have done some research and understand what the North End is all about.
I personally, I love the area. I actually just got back from Italy. I went to Rome, Naples, and Ischia. I went with my mother. It's an area that we're not trying to change the aesthetic of in any way. It's something that I appreciate and I love as well, just like all of you do. And I know you're vehemently trying to protect that. So for me, it's not just about the money, but an area where I can see myself and want to give back and work and actually be a part of that community and eventually help and give back to that community. So it's not just about looking at, foot traffic and everything. It does have a special place to me in my heart. I have to answer your question.
That didn't really adequately answer my question, actually, but I believe that's all you have on the history of the North End. So I'll give my time back.
Okay, thank you. We can move on to Elaine. I will ask you to unmute and lower your hand.
Good evening, all. Good evening, Ciara. Thank you so much. My name is Elaine Donovan, and I am a liaison for City Councilor Gabriella Coletta. The councilor has said that she's heard enough from the community, and it's only been opposition. She feels as though the proponent should have been more proactive with her office, especially before they went to the community. She feels as though you could have been proactive and reached out for a briefing before that. That's her statement. Thank you so much, Ciara.
Thank you, Elaine, for that. We can move on to MW.
Ciara, if I could kindly, I would like to comment that, we all did try to make efforts and we were advised through the Cannabis Board on how we were to engage. I have public emails on that as well. So there is a way in order in which we have to respond and act in this process. So I will take that very seriously. We did send all of our plans over and we were under the impression that the plans were going to be reviewed, but I do understand that the obligation is to the residents. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We can move on to Damien. I will unmute you and ask to lower your hand.
How do I? Don't worry.
All right. Thank you.
She skipped me.
Oh,
Is it me or who?
I don't know who said she skipped me. I don't see another.
Sorry, I think that somebody jumped in and said something and then and I didn't want to interrupt them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. You can see
that's
your
okay.
name. Yep.
Sorry?
I said you could just go ahead and state your name.
Yeah, I'm Michelle Watson. I have a son at the Elliott School. We are in a butter. We live on Charter Street. I have been checking in for weeks about the survey distance to the school. And every response I have had from the BCB or Ciara's office has been that they're checking in with the applicant on many occasions. So it was a little confusing or concerning why it had to be checked in on so many times instead of just that being something you proactively did, knowing there's a school so close. My question is, when the survey was done, which door was used, the geometric center of the door to door?
Sure, we'd like to pass that over to Catherine from Fuss O'Neill, who are the experts in this and they did this study.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for tossing that over to me. So I will speak to the fact that we were hired to do the survey probably 4 to 6 weeks ago. And our subcontractor did have, I think, about a 6-week turnaround time on producing the distance certification. So I can attest that we just received it ourselves yesterday. And then the second part of your question, I don't actually have an answer for you right now, but I spoke with the survey team about preparing an additional sort of letter explaining exactly how that distance was determined. And we anticipate having that in advance of the Boston Cannabis Board hearing. I'm going to talk to the team and get that as soon as I possibly can. So I don't have an answer for you tonight, but I am working on it.
So it will say which door the measurement was taken from considering if you look on a Google Maps, it's 16 Charter Street, but another main door abuts 6 Charter Street. So I'm just wondering, so that information will be included.
Yep, all of that information will be included and provided as soon as it is made available to me.
Okay. And then lastly, I would just say to caution, expressing, there's a lot of parents on this call, and to be told how and what to educate our kids on is a little aggressive. And I think that, every parent has to decide how they're going to do that themselves. And really it feels like a lecture when you're telling us, how and what to educate them on. So I just want to point that out. We're just really looking at this, as Mary said, the spirit of the law, which if it's just over 500, there's a regulation for a reason. And so let's just keep that in mind, that if there's no regulation, that would be one thing, but there's clearly a regulation in order to, mitigate some of this. So I just want to point that out. So we're opposed to this, just this particular location.
Thank you for that. Do you guys want to respond to that, or?
I do. We do intend to be compliant with all local and state requirements, zoning, buffers, all of the above. It is mandated by, again, the local and state level. And also, I was asked direct questions in regards to, how do we do this with the children in the area? It is completely, you're 100% right. It is completely up to you. And again, I respect everyone's methods of parenting and how they do that. Again, I'm just doing how I did it with my small child regarding alcohol or any other substance, with no disrespect.
I just want you to keep in mind that a strip club is also a legal, a legal business. And, parents might have questions about that going down the street from school. So, my point is that like, we have to draw that boundary on when we're going to tell their parents how to parent.
Absolutely. So again, we'll comply with zoning and we'll be sure that we're within means of the zone, so.
Thank you. We will go ahead with Damien. Damien, you will be our last comment of the night. So I will go ahead and unmute you.
All right, so I just have a few points for the board. I'm going to say them and then let you answer if you want. First of all, I want you to know that this group on this meeting is not all Italians. These are people who love this neighborhood and live here. So yes, it is an Italian neighborhood. We built it, we made it what it is. But there are a lot of other people that are not Italian. They're not all Catholics, Christians. Nobody wants you here. Okay, so let's forget the Italian thing. Another thing the board should know, the cannabis people here, Bay State, this meeting was limited to 100 people. If it wasn't limited to 100, there would have been 1,000 people here. Nobody wants you here. Another question, and these are 2 questions. Do you have a signed lease already? Let us know, full disclosure. Is there a lease? And the big question, after tonight's meeting, and knowing that there are thousands of people that don't want you here, trust me, why do you still want to be here? This is a money grab. Don't make it sound like you're coming here to do community service, to educate people about marijuana. People have aches and pains. We have 3 dispensaries within a 10-minute walk. We don't need you here. Don't talk to us like we're stupid, okay? Thank you. And thank you again, Ciara. Great meeting, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Damien.
Sure, we do have a signed lease. There hasn't been any secrets. It's all public information and we have submitted that to the board. Again, it's just a matter of, it's public information, sir. And also, why do we want to be here? I'm gonna let Liam do our closing, but I will say that as a young person looking to be successful in business, you're 100% correct. The North End, in my opinion, outside of this meeting, has been a very welcoming place to anybody. I don't think that the diversity and the equality stops at, well, we have enough and we already give back. I don't think it ends there. You're 100% correct. We're a cannabis company that wants to come in your neighborhood, but to do so, we want to give back 100,000% of what we're taking in. So we're asking and we're hoping to be, again, good neighbors and keep it as, beneficial to both sides as we can.
absolutely. And this is a very passionate issue for me, myself. I was a medical marijuana patient before the state even was legal through a pill called Marinol when I was going through chemotherapy. So, you know, that's how I got in trouble, you know, it's through cannabis when it was, you know, illegal. It's a very issue that's very passionate to me, and I want to help by, you know, there's mentorship programs that we have in place that we can help other people that just in my position to help better themselves. And I think everyone really deserves a right to build themselves. This is America, and I think we all deserve a right to build a better future. And, you know, that's what I want to do, and that's what I'm trying to do. And that's for something that I love and I believe in and I'm very passionate for.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. Okay, we are gonna end this meeting. I do just want to say thank you to everyone for taking the time out, for being here, voicing your concerns, questions, comments. And I do apologize for the Zoom issue at the beginning if anyone was unable to join. I was not aware of a max, but I do want to say if anyone has anything else to state, to please email me or directly to the Cannabis Board. Once again, I will add that to the chat. And I hope everyone has a great night, and thank you.
Thank you, Ciara.
Thanks.